Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Life is a battlefield. Every day, we face challenges that test our strength, our patience, and our faith. Some battles feel small, like a passing storm, while others seem like towering mountains, impossible to climb. But tonight, I want you to remember one truth that will transform the way you see every struggle. God fights your battles. The preacher is speaking from experience. The preacher gets more done in the first hour than the average person. The preacher gets more done in the first hour than the average person. The preacher gets more done in the first hour than the average person. The preacher gets more done in the first hour than the average person. The preacher gets more done in the first hour than the average person. The preacher gets more done in the first hour than the average person. The preacher gets more done in the first hour than the average person. 1. Faith over fear. When you truly trust in God, fear loses its power. The world may tell you that you're outnumbered, that you're not strong enough, not smart enough, or not capable enough. But let me remind you of this. If God is for you, who can be against you? You don't need to be the strongest or the smartest. You just need faith. Faith is the key that unlocks the door to God's intervention in your life. 2. Purpose in the struggle. Your struggles are not meaningless. They are not random. Every battle you face is part of a divine plan, a plan to make you stronger, wiser, and more prepared for the blessings ahead. The battle isn't meant to break you. It's meant to build you. Sometimes God doesn't move the mountain because he wants you to climb it and see the world from a higher perspective. 3. The power of prayer. Let me tell you about the power of prayer. Prayer is not a last resort. It's your first line of defense. When you pray, you invite God into the battle. You acknowledge that the fight is bigger than you, but not bigger than him. Prayer shifts the focus from your fear to his power. It aligns your heart with his will and gives you peace in the middle of the storm. 4. Victory is certain. 4. Victory is certain. 5. When God fights for you, the outcome is already decided. Victory is not just a possibility, it's a promise. Now, the journey may not look the way you expect, the timeline may test your patience, but God's victories are always complete and always on time. Think about this. David didn't win his battle against Goliath because he had the best weapon. He won because he had the greatest faith. 5. Stay in position. Here's the catch. God fights for you, but you must stay in position. You can't quit. You can't run away. You can't let doubt push you off course. Stay faithful. Stay obedient. Keep showing up even when it's hard, because when you stand firm, you give God the space to work miracles in your life. So the next time you face a battle, don't ask, why me? Instead ask, what is God teaching me? Remember, the fight is not yours, it's his. Your job is to trust him, pray to him, and stand firm in faith. You want the best for your children, and you want the best for yourself. You have practical application of this principle in your life. Let him fight your battles and watch how he turns your struggles into victories. Watch how he turns your tests into testimonies. And when the dust settles, you'll realize that the greatest victories aren't just the ones he wins for you, they're the ones he wins through you. Be seen. Believe it or not, some successes are actually byproducts of living of calling. Let's talk about faith over fear, one of the most powerful principles you can live by. Faith is not just a belief, it's a decision. It's a choice to trust in something greater than yourself, even when the circumstances around you scream otherwise. Fear, on the other hand, is the thief of hope. It's the voice that tells you to stay small, to give up, or to run away. But here's the truth: fear and faith cannot coexist. Lack of faith, fear and faith cannot coexist. You have to choose one. Fear magnifies problems. Fear has a way of distorting reality. It takes your problems and makes them seem bigger than they are. It whispers lies like, "You'll never overcome this," or "You're all alone in this." Fear paralyzes you, keeping you stuck in a cycle of worry and doubt. But let me remind you, the size of your problem is irrelevant when you serve a God who is infinitely greater. Faith magnifies God. Faith flips the script. Instead of focusing on the size of your problem, faith reminds you of the size of your God. It's the ability to look at a storm and say, "This is tough, but my God is tougher." It's like Peter stepping out of the boat and walking on water. The moment he kept his eyes on Jesus, he did the impossible. But the second he looked at the waves, when fear crept in, he began to sink. Faith is what keeps you walking, even in the middle of the storm. Faith is active, not passive. Faith is not just wishful thinking. It's not sitting back and saying, "I hope things get better." No, faith requires action. It's stepping forward when everything in you wants to step back. It's speaking life over your situation, even when you feel like giving up. It's declaring, "I trust you, God," not just when things are going well, but especially when they aren't. Faith doesn't eliminate fear, it overcomes it. Now, let's be honest. Having faith doesn't mean you'll never feel afraid. Fear is natural, but faith gives you the courage to move forward despite the fear. Think about it like this. Fear says, "What if I fail?" Faith answers, "What if God steps in and I succeed?" Fear says, "I'm not good enough." Faith declares, "God's strength is made perfect in my weakness." The power of trusting God. When you choose faith over fear, you're not denying reality, you're elevating your perspective. You're saying, "I see the problem, but I also see God's promises." Trusting God doesn't mean you'll never face difficulties. It means you trust Him to carry you through them. It means you believe that even if the situation doesn't change immediately, God is working all things together for your good. And the faith to know that your present circumstances and you're not letting things push you away from your path to success. It means you believe that your future is within your grasp. Faith over fear is about shifting your mindset. It's about stepping out of the shadow of doubt and into the light of God's truth. When you choose faith, you're not just declaring that God is bigger than your problems, you're also declaring that He's bigger than your fears. And when you live like that, fear loses its grip, and you step into the peace, power, and purpose that God has for your life. Worthiness prevails when fear is removed, and life is the process of living life with full purpose and purpose without fear. Struggles are a part of life. They come in many forms: financial setbacks, relationship challenges, career obstacles, or even battles with self-doubt. But here's the truth most people miss. Your struggles have a purpose. They are not random, and they are not meant to defeat you. Instead, they are tools in God's hands, shaping you into the person you are meant to be. 1. Struggles as refined man. Think of a blacksmith refining metal. The fire isn't there to destroy the metal, it's there to strengthen it, to remove impurities, and to mold it into something useful and beautiful. In the same way, your struggles are a refining fire. They strip away what doesn't serve you, pride, fear, selfishness, and make room for qualities like humility, patience, and resilience. For example, you might lose a job and feel like it's the end of the road. But through that loss, you might develop new skills, discover your true purpose, or find opportunities you never imagined. The struggle refines you, preparing you for something greater. 2. Lessons hidden in pain. Every struggle carries a lesson. It's easy to ask, why is this happening to me? But a better question is, what is this teaching me? Maybe you're learning how to be patient in uncertainty, how to forgive when it's hard, or how to trust God when the path ahead is unclear. Struggles force us to grow in ways comfort never can. Biblical truth, the Bible reminds us in James 1:02, verses 4-2, to count it all joy when you face trials of many kinds, because those trials produce perseverance and maturity. God uses struggles to shape us into the people we are destined to be. And so, in times of struggle, you may experience failure as the result of failure to perseverance and maturity. God uses struggles to shape us into the people we are destined to be. 3. Struggles build strength. Nancy, creativity is key. Think about an athlete training for a race. The process isn't easy. It's full of sweat, fatigue, and sometimes even pain. But every mile run, every weight lifted, every moment of discomfort builds the strength needed to win. Your struggles work the same way. They stretch your faith, expand your capacity, and prepare you for the victories ahead. Key insight. Without challenges, there can be no growth. Without resistance, there can be no strength. The very thing you're fighting might be the thing that's equipping you for your future. 4. Struggles is part of the bigger picture. Often we only see the struggle in front of us, but God sees the entire picture. He knows how this season fits into the grand design of your life. That heartbreak, that failure, that delay, it might be the very thing positioning you for something extraordinary. Illustration. Think of Joseph in the Bible, betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, and thrown into prison. His life was full of struggles, but each one was preparing him to become a leader who would save an entire nation. What looked like defeat was actually preparation for his destiny. Betrayal, 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 betrayal. By faith, you will not fail. Become a leader who will save an entire nation. What looked like defeat was actually preparation for his destiny. 5. Trusting the process. Struggles are uncomfortable, but they are necessary. Trust that God doesn't waste pain. If He allows you to face a struggle, it's because He sees the potential within you to overcome it. And more than that, He's walking with you through it. He's using it to deepen your character, grow your faith, and prepare you for the blessings He has in store. When you face struggles, don't despair. Remember, there's purpose in the pain. Your struggles are not a sign that God has abandoned you. They're proof that He's working on you. He's shaping you, strengthening you, and preparing you for something far greater than you can imagine. So, hold on, keep fighting, and trust that when the struggle is over, you won't just survive, you'll come out stronger, wiser, and more prepared for the journey ahead. So, Brian, in your own words, how would you typically warm up an introduction for yourself? When life feels overwhelming and the battles seem too great to handle, the first thing many people forget is the most powerful weapon they have: prayer. Prayer isn't just a ritual or a habit, it's a direct connection to God, the ultimate source of strength, wisdom, and peace. Through prayer, you don't just fight your battles, you invite God to fight them for you. 1. Prayer aligns you with God's will. Proverb: prayer is not just about asking for what you want, it's about aligning yourself with what God wants for you. Sometimes we pray for immediate solutions, but God sees the bigger picture. Prayer helps shift our focus from our limited perspective to His infinite wisdom. It's saying, Lord, not my will, but yours be done. Ask yourself this question: is it better to pray for your family, to pray for the church, to pray for your family, to pray for the church, to pray for the church? Key thought: when you pray, you surrender control. You trust that God's plan is better than your own, even if you don't understand it in the moment. 2. Prayer changes your perspective. The Psalms, by the way, one of the most powerful aspects of prayer is how it changes the way you see your situation. The problems may not disappear instantly, but prayer gives you the strength and clarity to face them. It shifts your focus from the size of the problem to the size of your God. Illustration: think of a soldier going into battle. Without a strategy, they may feel overwhelmed, but with the right guidance, they can face the fight with confidence. Prayer is your divine strategy session. It reminds you that you're not alone and that the battle is already in God's hands. Ask yourself, do you completely understand God's call for you in your life, or is your prayer God's answer? 3. Prayer brings peace in the storm. There's a unique peace that comes from prayer, a peace that defies logic and circumstances. The Bible calls it the peace that surpasses all understanding, Philippians 4:7. It's the kind of peace that allows you to sleep in the middle of the storm, knowing that God is in control. 4. Prayer as a weapon. Prayer isn't passive, it's powerful. It's not just a comforting exercise, it's an act of spiritual warfare. When you pray, you call on the armies of heaven to stand with you. You declare that no weapon formed against you shall prosper, because God is fighting for you. But there are lots of ways to strengthen your faith. Most of them are physical. And by the way, we speak about these here in the letter. Key action: when you face a challenge, don't just react, pray first. Before you speak, before you act, before you give in to fear, take it to God in prayer. You'll find strength you didn't know you had. 5. Prayer strengthens your relationship with God. At its core, prayer is about relationship. It's not just about asking for help. It's about drawing closer to God. It's about spending time in His presence, sharing your heart, and listening for His voice. The more you pray, the stronger your connection to Him becomes. Insight: when you have a strong relationship with God, you don't just pray in times of trouble, you pray in times of peace, in times of gratitude, and in times of joy. That constant connection gives you the foundation to stand firm when battles arise. The first foundation